Imagine waking up not in a warm bed but on cold, hard earth. The only alarm clock is the first ray of sun, or the howl of a distant predator. There are no walls, no roof, just the vast, unforgiving wilderness. This was the reality for our earliest ancestors. Every single day was a brutal test of survival. Forget about your job, your bills, your daily commute. Their only job was to see the next sunrise. Life on the absolute edge. A constant battle with raw nature, not a camping trip. This was life. Every rustle could be a saber-toothed cat. Every dark cloud could mean a deadly storm. Hunger was a constant, gnawing force. You couldn't pop down to the shops. Food had to be found, hunted, and won. Incredible beauty, but incredible danger. One wrong move, game over. Your lineage could end right there. The ultimate survival scenario for the future of humanity. The sheer mental fortitude required. You had to rely on your wits, your strength, and the people around you. Every choice, life or death. This primal existence forged humanity. Their struggle is our struggle. Their survival is the reason you and I are here today. The world of prehistoric man was a minefield of dangers. It wasn't just one thing you had to worry about, it was everything all at once. Let's start with the neighbors. We're not talking about someone playing their music too loud. We're talking about massive predators. Creatures that would make a modern grizzly look like a teddy bear. Imagine giant cave bears, towering with claws like daggers. Smilodon, the saber-toothed cat, fangs built to shear bone. These were apex predators. Early humans were on the menu. Then there was the weather. We fret about a bit of rain. But for them, the climate was a killer. During the ice ages, temperatures would plummet. A simple snowstorm could trap a group for days, cutting them off from food and firewood. Blizzards could bring lethal cold. Without shelter and fire, hypothermia set in fast. In warmer periods, torrential rains caused flash floods. Campsites wiped out in minutes. Lightning could split trees. Lightning could start wildfires. And let's not forget the silent killer: starvation. The hunt for calories was non-stop. There were no guarantees. A hunting party could return empty-handed for days. A drought could wither edible plants, forcing the group to move into unknown territory. Finally, there were the unseen dangers. A simple cut from a sharp rock could become infected. Drinking from the wrong water source could cause disease. Eating the wrong plant could be your last meal. Even the ground underfoot was treacherous. A twisted ankle could be a death sentence, making you slow, vulnerable, and an easy target. In a world full of claws, fangs, and brute strength, early humans seemed hopelessly outmatched. But we had something else, something powerful. A thinking mind and clever hands. This is where the first revolution in survival began. With the simple stone tool. It might not look like much, just a piece of flint or obsidian chipped into a sharp edge. But in the hands of an early human, this was the great equalizer. It was the key that unlocked a new world of possibilities and gave us a fighting chance against the giants. Think about what a sharp edge gives you. Suddenly, you can do things you could never do before. You can butcher a large animal carcass, slicing through tough hide and sinew to get to the calorie-rich meat and marrow inside. Before this, we were likely just scavengers, picking at the scraps left by bigger predators. You could sharpen a wooden stick into a deadly spear, turning a defensive branch into an offensive weapon. It extended our reach and gave us the power to hunt, not just be hunted. This simple technology was a complete game changer. It wasn't just about hunting. You could use these sharp flakes to strip bark from trees, to dig for edible roots, or to scrape hides clean. Scraping hides was crucial. It meant you could create simple clothing for warmth, build better shelters, and make leather straps for carrying things. Every aspect of life was improved by this one innovation. The process of making these tools, known as knapping, also shows a leap in cognitive ability. It requires planning, precision, and an understanding of physics. This knowledge was passed down through generations. A father would teach his son, a mother her daughter. This sharing of knowledge was the beginning of culture and education. The stone tool wasn't just an object, it was a concept, an idea that proved our brains were our ultimate weapon. If stone tools were the first step, the mastery of fire was a giant leap for humankind. It's hard for us to imagine a world without it, but for our ancestors, a world without fire was a world of darkness and fear. The night belonged to the predators, but with fire, everything changed. A simple campfire became a fortress of light and warmth in the middle of a vast, dangerous wilderness. It kept the massive cave lions and hyenas at bay. Their primal fear of flames created a protective barrier, a circle of safety where a family could rest without being attacked. Fire did more than just provide protection, it provided warmth. In the biting cold of an Ice Age winter, a fire was the difference between life and freezing to death. It allowed humans to survive in climates that would have otherwise been uninhabitable, pushing our species into new territories across the globe. It turned a cold, dark cave into a home. The hearth became the heart of the community, a central point where the group would gather. Then there's the food. Fire unlocked a massive new source of nutrition through cooking. Cooking meat not only makes it easier to chew and digest, but it also kills harmful bacteria and parasites. This meant more energy from the same amount of food, and less risk of getting sick. This extra energy is what scientists believe fueled the growth of our large, complex brains. You could also cook tough, fibrous plants, making them edible and releasing their nutrients. And finally, fire was a tool. You could use it to harden the tips of wooden spears, making them far more lethal for hunting. You could even use fire to manage the landscape, clearing brush to encourage the growth of useful plants or to drive herds of animals towards a trap. The control of fire was not just about comfort. It was a strategic advantage that gave our ancestors an unprecedented level of control over their environment. It was a symbol of human ingenuity. In the brutal prehistoric world, going it alone was honestly a death sentence. You might be clever, you might be strong, but you wouldn't last long. The single most effective survival tool our ancestors had was, well, each other. They lived and moved in small, tight-knit groups, a pack, a tribe, a family. This social structure was our secret weapon. It provided safety in numbers. A lone human is vulnerable, but a group of 20, working together, watching each other's backs, is a formidable force. They could fend off predators no single person could beat. This teamwork extended to every part of daily life, especially the hunt. Hunting large game like a bison, a woolly mammoth was impossible for one person. It required a coordinated strategy. Some members acted as drivers, making noise, steering animals toward a cliff, steering toward a bog. Others lay in wait, ready with spears. It was a dangerous, precise dance requiring communication, trust, everyone doing their part. One mistake could mean failure, or death. A successful hunt meant food for the entire group for weeks. The pack wasn't just for hunting, it was a system of shared resources and knowledge. Some hunted, others, often women, children, stayed near camp. They were gatherers, edible plants, nuts, berries, insects. They kept knowledge. What plants were safe, medicinal, poisonous. This social bond was our first healthcare system. If someone was injured or sick, the group cared for them. Fossils show early humans surviving years with debilitating injuries. That survival would have been impossible alone. This compassion, looking after one another, is ancient. It was the glue that held our world together. Let's put all the skills together and look at one of the most epic survival stories of the prehistoric world. The mammoth hunt. This wasn't just hunting, this was like waging war on a mountain of muscle and fur. A full-grown woolly mammoth was a colossal beast, armed with massive curving tusks. It could trample you, it could gore you, and smash you without a second thought. So why risk it? The answer is simple. The reward was immense. A single mammoth could provide a staggering amount of food, bone, and hide, enough to sustain a group for an entire winter. The hunt began not with a charge, but with careful planning. The hunters were expert trackers. They would follow a herd for days, studying its movements, looking for the right opportunity. They weren't looking to take on the biggest, strongest bull. That was suicide. They were looking for a weakness. They would use the landscape to their advantage, trying to isolate their target and drive it into a place where it was vulnerable, a narrow ravine, a muddy bog, or towards the edge of a cliff. Then came the attack. It was a terrifying, coordinated effort. This wasn't a single clean kill shot, it was a battle of 1,000 cuts. The hunters would swarm the animal from all sides, using their fire-hardened spears to jab at its flanks and underbelly. They would throw rocks to distract it and confuse it. It was incredibly dangerous work. A flick of the mammoth's trunk or a sweep of its tusks could send a hunter flying. Many would have died in these encounters. It was a brutal, bloody business that required immense courage. If they were successful, the work had only just begun. Butchering a creature of that size was a monumental task. Using their sharp stone tools, the group would work for hours, maybe days, stripping away the thick hide, carving off huge slabs of meat, and breaking open the bones to get to the rich marrow inside. Nothing was wasted. The meat would be eaten fresh or preserved by smoking or freezing. The hide would be used for clothing and shelter. The bones and tusks would be carved into tools, needles, and even art. The mammoth hunt was more than just a meal. It was an event that provided everything the group needed to survive. While the dramatic mammoth hunt captures the imagination, the quiet daily work of gathering was the true backbone of prehistoric survival. Hunting was a gamble. It was high risk and high reward, with no guarantee of success. Gathering, on the other hand, was the reliable, steady income of calories that kept the group alive day in and day out. It was a task often led by the women, elders, children of the group, and it required an encyclopedic knowledge of the natural world. This wasn't just picking berries, this was a highly skilled profession. Imagine walking through a wild landscape. To an untrained eye, it's just a tangle of green, but to a prehistoric gatherer, it was a living pantry. They knew which roots were packed with starch, which leaves could be eaten, which nuts provided essential fats. They knew the seasonal cycles of every plant, understanding when the berries would be ripe, when the seeds would be ready to harvest, when the tubers would be at their most nutritious. This knowledge was a survival library, passed down from mother to daughter, from one generation to the next, through observation and oral tradition. This wasn't a risk-free job either. The gatherers had to be constantly aware of their surroundings. While they foraged, they were vulnerable to the same predators as the hunters. They had to know which plants were not just inedible but lethally poisonous. A single mistake, eating the wrong mushroom or a misidentified berry, could be fatal. They also had to know how to process certain foods. Some roots and seeds are toxic when raw, and only become edible after being soaked, pounded, or cooked. This required careful preparation and a deep understanding of their food sources. The gatherer's role was about more than just food. They were the group's pharmacists, too. They knew which plants had medicinal properties. A certain leaf might be mashed into a poultice to soothe a wound and prevent infection. A specific bark could be boiled into a tea to relieve a fever. This knowledge was life-saving. The gatherers didn't just feed the group, they healed it. Their quiet, methodical work was every bit as crucial as the hunter's spear. It was the steady heartbeat that ensured the pack's survival. Looking back at the immense struggles of our prehistoric ancestors, it's easy to see them as distant, primitive figures. But their story is not just a dusty chapter in a history book, it is our story. The battles they fought, the challenges they overcame, the innovations they created are the very foundation upon which our modern world is built. Every time you switch on a light, cook a meal, or work together with a team, you are using principles that were first mastered around a campfire tens of thousands of years ago. Their survival is the single greatest success story in human history. Their legacy is written into our very being. Our innate ability to solve problems, our creativity, and our capacity for complex social cooperation were honed in the brutal crucible of the Ice Age. The instinct to form communities, to protect our families, and to feel empathy for others in our group is a direct inheritance from the pack that huddled together for warmth and safety. We are the descendants of the ultimate survivors. For millions of years, every single one of our ancestors, in an unbroken chain, managed to live long enough to have children. That is a staggering achievement. Understanding their struggle gives us a profound sense of perspective. We live in a world of incredible comfort and safety, yet we often feel overwhelmed by our modern problems. Thinking about what they endured, the constant threat of starvation, the terrifying predators, the brutal cold, can make our own challenges seem more manageable. It reminds us of the incredible resilience that is built into the human spirit. If they could survive a world that was actively trying to kill them every single day, then surely we can face the difficulties of our own time with courage and determination. Ultimately, their story is one of hope. It shows that even when faced with overwhelming odds, a small, vulnerable species with a big brain and a strong sense of community can not only survive but thrive. They didn't just endure, they explored, they innovated, they spread across the entire planet, they painted art in deep caves, and they laid their dead to rest with care. They were not just animals struggling to live, they were humans, beginning the long journey towards who we are today. Their unbreakable will to survive is the spark that lights our way forward, never forget that.